In this video, I am going to teach you useful expressions, phrases, questions that you can use on a flight to make requests, to get help, or when you need to ask if something is available, or to ask for a favor. These are common things we need to do on a flight, but actually we can use these expressions in a lot of other situations as well. We're going to be talking about examples and actually how to use them. If you have any questions as we go, let me know in the comments. If you haven't already done so, I would appreciate if you could hit the like button and subscribe. Also, grab a free course in the links in the description. Now let's get into the video. When you're on a flight, especially after the plane leaves the ground, after takeoff, you're essentially in a flying restaurant. Now, it's a flying restaurant where you can take a 6-hour nap. It's a flying restaurant where you might ask for a blanket and not just food. But the way you ask for things in a plane to a flight attendant is actually very similar to the way you might ask a waiter or a waitress for something in a restaurant. Now, it's not quite that simple because you may have other types of requests that you wouldn't ask to a waiter or a waitress. Maybe you want them to close the overhead stowage bin, right? And again, maybe you need them to get you something that is not related to food or drinks. Maybe you have to choose between two things because there are only two options, which is not that common in a restaurant. Well, let's look at some really useful phrases that we can use on a flight to request things, to ask for favors, to ask if things are available. These common phrases that we can use. Very importantly, to ask politely, respectfully. Because if you just say, I want a Diet Coke, bring me water, you're going to come across as very rude. And maybe you want to do that, but I don't recommend it, right? If you want to be polite and respectful, it can be very useful to know the phrases we're about to talk about. The phrases we're about to talk about. Very useful. Now, another thing is you can't just stick please on in front of something and say, okay, well, that's all I need to do. If you say, please give me water, you've said please, but does that sound polite? I don't think so. Not really. So what should you do? Well, if you have a simple request, could I have, could I get, could I please have? So if you're going to put please in there, put please in there after could I. Now you'll notice I'm not using can here. I'm not saying can I get. It's not wrong to say can, and it's not rude to say can either. But could I is, I think, even more gentle, less direct, very natural. Now you could use these to ask for food and drinks, things related to food and drinks, and you could use these at a restaurant too. But you could also ask these to ask for other things on a flight, like headphones. Could I please have a pair of headphones? Could I get an orange juice, please? Could I please have a blanket? I'm a little bit cold, right? So you're asking for things in the same way that you would say to a waiter or a waitress in a restaurant, could I please get a glass of water? Or could I please have a side salad or something like that, right? Basically the same thing. Okay. So if you just have those, you can accomplish a lot. But maybe you don't want to ask this as a question. You might say, I'd like, I'll have, I think I'll get. Now, you may not use these for some more general requests. Not as common. If you were to say to a flight attendant, excuse me, I'll have a blanket. It comes across as I'm giving you an order to go get me a blanket. And there, I think it would be much more common to say, could I please have a blanket, right? Now, I think I'd like a blanket is better. I'd like a blanket. My advice is go with the question, could I have, could I get? I think it's better, okay? It's not wrong to say I'd like, but I think it's better. I'd like, I'll have, I think I'll get is more often used for food and drink related things, more often, especially when you're given options, right? So if someone says, would you like something to drink? Okay, so we're talking about drinks now. So now you need to make a choice about a drink. So there, if you say, I'd like a glass of wine. I'd like a Diet Coke. I'd like a coffee. I'll have a coffee. I think I'll get a cup of tea. Okay, that's fine. That's perfect, actually, right? That's very natural and very polite. But again, if you use that same way to ask for the blanket, I think it's a little bit odd. Usually there's sort of a context. The context is, would you like something to drink? The context is, would you like a snack, right? Then you state specifically what type you want. Then I think it's natural to use I'd like, I'll have, I think I'll get. Now, sometimes you only have two choices. Would you like the chicken or the vegetarian? There are two choices. There are two meals. One is chicken, one is vegetarian on the flight. This is not something that you face in a restaurant usually. Well, sometimes, but usually not. There you might say, I'll have the. And then you have the to state which one, because there are only two. I'll have the vegetarian, right? I'd like the vegetarian. I think I'll get, maybe not in this case because there are only two choices. I think I'll get is more common when you have that broader category. Would you like something to drink? And you say, I think I'll get a cup of hot tea. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Right? So that would be more natural in that case, not when you only have two things to choose from. Okay, so we've talked about how we can state what we want politely. We've talked about, to a flight attendant, how we can ask for basically anything. Now, what about availability? We want to know if something is available before we ask for it, right? Do you have? Okay, well, what? Could be food related. Do you have potato chips? Maybe I'm really craving potato chips on this flight. Do you have potato chips? Are there any potato chips? Do you have extra blankets? Do you have headphones? Right? Whatever you may need, this is a way to ask. I'm wondering if you have. Very polite, very respectful. So this is sort of the thing you would say before you say, if they say yes, could I have that, right? Do you have any extra headphones? Mine aren't working. Yes, we do. Okay. Could I get some? Then you would go back to could I. So sometimes you want to ask about availability first. Now, if it's a specific beverage, right? Do you have, I don't know, name a beer. Do you have IPA? Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have IPA. How about a lager? Yeah, we do have a lager. Okay. Could I get that, or I'll have that? That would be a natural follow-up to state or ask for what you want after you find out if something is available. So these phrases are very common and very natural as well. Now, finally, what about when we have requests? We want somebody to do something for us. We might say, would you mind? Would it be possible? And do you think you could? Now, I want to be clear, this is useful on a flight, very useful, but also useful in many other areas of life where you have requests, right? Would you mind closing the window? Would you mind closing the overhead bin on the flight? That would be very common, right? Would it be possible? Now, would it be possible is not so much asking the other person to do something. It could be, would it be possible for you to bring me some headphones? Is okay, you're asking them to do that. But more common in this case, would it be possible is asking if I can do something and you need to give me permission first, right? That would be a very, very common way to use this one. Would it be possible for me to move up to the front next to the door? I'm feeling a little bit cramped and I see there's no one sitting there. Would it be possible for me to do that? Sure, that's okay. Or yeah, absolutely, that would be fine, right? So you're asking for permission there. That's a common way to use would it be possible. But if you have you there, would you mind, right? More often we're asking them to do something for us. If you say, would you mind if I move up next to the exit, I suppose that's okay, right? But using you is often asking them to do something for you. And you could ask another person on the flight, would you mind if my wife and I sit here and we have another seat, there's another seat up front, we would like to sit together if possible. Would you mind? So I'm asking this person to basically move in a polite and respectful way, and they can say yes or no. Do you think you could? This is a great way to make a very polite and respectful request. So if you ever have a respectful request for someone else, you want them to do something, do you think you could bring me a pair of headphones? Do you think you could bring me a blanket? Do you think you could put this umbrella somewhere where it's not going to drip all over the place, right? Whatever it may be, it's a very useful expression to make a request of someone, especially if you want somebody to do something for you. So, if you have any questions about any of these expressions that we've talked about, any of these useful phrases and questions, again, useful for a flight, but in other situations as well, let me know in the comments. If you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also, grab a free English course, Natural English Conversations. That's in the links in the description. And I'll see you in the next one.